Hi students, how are you? I hope each one among you are doing great and well. Welcome to Supnit's classes. This is Rahmat Latif, your biology educator. In this video, we are going to learn about menstrual cycle. Let's study what menstrual cycle is. First of all, please remember that this menstrual cycle occurs in females. This menstrual cycle occurs in females, particularly primate females, okay? Particularly in female primates. Primates. Okay, I hope this concept is clear. What are those female primates? Example is menstrual cycle occurs in monkeys. It occurs in apes. It occurs in humans, females. Okay, not in males. Right? Monkeys, apes, humans. You know, when did this first menstruation occur in female? When this menstruation occurs in females, it occurs, or we can say it begins during puberty. Menstruation begins during puberty. Okay, menstruation begins during puberty, and this process, this beginning of menstruation, is known as menarche. I'll erase it. When this first time menstruation occurs in female primates, this is known as this is known as menarche or menarche. Okay, menarche or menarche. What is menarche now? Menarche simply means, when first menstruation begins at puberty. When first menstruation occurs, and we know it occurs during when? Which period? It occurs during puberty. Okay, I hope this concept of menarche is clear, right? Then a phase in females occur, that is known as menopause. Pause means stop. Menopause. Menopause simply means, when menstruation ceases. When menstruation ceases in females, and it occurs, it ceases, menstruation ceases in which age? Around the age of 50 years. Menstruation ceases around the age of 50 years. Of 50 years. I hope this concept about menarche and menopause is crystal clear, right? Let me clear it. Let me clear it. Okay. You know, menstruation simply means bleeding, and it occurs in females every month. So the cycle of that particular month is known as menstrual cycle. Okay. And during this menstrual cycle, when bleeding occurs in females, bleeding occurs in females, that period is known as what? That period is known as menstruation. I hope this concept of menstruation is crystal clear, right? Let me clear it. I hope menstrual cycle is clear. Now this cycle not only consists of menstruation, not only bleeding, it includes other what we call it as phases as well. Okay, not only this menstruation. Okay, when one ovum is released during the middle of menstrual cycle, which is known as ovulation, as I already mentioned in the previous session, the cycle starts, you know uh, you know during menstrual cycle, ovulation occurs, menstruation occurs, luteal phase occurs. I'll explain one by one. Okay, the menstrual cycle starts with menstrual phase, or we can say menstrual flow. Okay, the menstrual cycle it occurs with menstrual phase. It occurs with menstrual phase. It's that phase during which menstrual flow occurs. Okay, during which menstrual flow occurs, right? Menstrual flow occurs. I hope this concept of menstrual flow is clear. And this menstrual flow usually, remains, it lasts for 3 to 5 days. How this what we call it as menstrual flow occurs? It occurs because of the breakdown of endometrial lining. I already mentioned that is the which lining? Endometrium is the innermost lining of the uterus. Okay, and what happens? Menstrual flow results due to the breakdown of endometrium lining of uterus. And what happens basically? Blood vessels which forms liquid that comes out through the vagina. Okay, and when will menstruation occur? Menstruation doesn't occur when female becomes pregnant or female conceives. No, menstruation only occurs if the ovum is not fertilized by particular sperm. Okay, so we can say lack of menstruation is the indicator of pregnancy, but it's not always true. Sometimes females skip menstruation. Why? Because of stress, because of poor health, because of unbalanced diet, so on and so forth. But one of the reason is that female has conceived. Okay, now what happens? We have some what we call it as okay, we have phase we have first phase of menstrual cycle is known as menstrual phase, during which menstruation occurs. Menstrual phase, right? Another phase of menstrual cycle is known as another phase of menstrual cycle is known as follicular phase, or another name for this follicular phase is proliferative phase. Proliferative phase. Okay. Okay. What happens during this? Why is it known as follicular phase? Why is it known as proliferative phase? Let's see. Follicular phase simply means follicles are formed. For example, primary follicle will get converted into secondary follicle. Primary follicle will get converted into secondary follicle. Secondary follicle will get converted into tertiary follicle, which will further get converted into Graafian follicle, so on and so forth. This is follicular phase, when follicles get formed. Then another name of this is proliferative phase. Proliferative phase simply means, you know, as I already mentioned, what happens during menstruation basically, endometrium lining is breakdown of endometrium lining took place, right? And that will lead to menstrual flow, right? Now we have to again, for next cycle we have to regenerate that endometrium lining, right? That has been degenerated, that lining has been broken down. We have to regenerate that, and that will take place only by proliferation. After menstrual phase, proliferation will occur. Proliferation of what we call it as endometrium lining occurs. That's why it's known as proliferative phase. Okay, and another name of this is follicular phase, during which follicles are formed. Okay, primary follicle get converted into secondary follicle, which gets converted into tertiary follicle, which further gets converted into Graafian follicle. I hope this concept is clear, right? And how these chains occur inside a female body? These chains occur in because of, pituitary and ovarian hormones. Now, secretion of gonadotropins, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone also increases, okay, during follicular phase, and which stimulates the follicular development. Primary follicle will get converted into secondary follicle, secondary will get converted into tertiary follicle, tertiary will get converted into mature follicle, or we can say Graafian follicle. How is this possible? This is only and only possible because of the secretion of gonadotropins. And we know in gonadotropins we have luteinizing hormone and we have follicle stimulating hormone, right? And both these gonadotropic hormones, luteinizing hormones and follicle stimulating hormones, they reach a peak during middle of cycle, about 14th day. And at that phase, ovum is released, ovulation occurs. Okay, ovulation simply means release of ovum, which takes place during mid cycle. That is known as LH surge. Why? Because LH and FSH is very high at that period, about 14th day. Okay, and it induces rupture of Graafian follicle, and thereby it releases ovum, which is known as ovulation. After what we call it as, so as I already mentioned, following follicular phase we have ovulatory phase. Ovulatory phase means during which ovulation occurs. Ovulatory phase simply means during which, okay, I'll change the color, during which ovulation occurs. Ovulation means release of ovum, right? Ovulatory phase is the phase during which ovulation occurs. Ovum, release of ovum took place. What happens after this ovulatory phase? Okay, remember, during ovulatory phase, LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, both are, both attain peak level. They get increased. Okay, only then ovulation occurs, ovulatory phase occurs, which is known as LH surge. Okay, surge. I hope this concept is clear, right? Okay. Finally, after ovulatory or ovulation phase, one more phase occurs, which is known as luteal phase. Okay, which is known as luteal phase. I'll erase it. Luteal phase, or another name of this phase, is secretory phase. Secretory means secretion. Some secretion might occur there. That's why it's known as secretory phase. What is another phase is known as luteal phase or secretory phase. Luteal phase. Why is it known as luteal phase? Luteal phase simply means, now Graafian follicle will release ovum. It will release female gamete. Now that Graafian follicle, that outer structure of Graafian follicle will get converted into, corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. That's why it's known as luteal phase. Luteum, corpus luteum. Graafian follicle will get converted into corpus luteum. And why is it known as secretory phase? Because this is the stage when more and more progesterone is secreted. Okay, progesterone is secreted. Why is this progesterone secreted? Progesterone is also known as pregnancy hormone, and corpus luteum secretes this progesterone hormone. Why? Because this hormone is really very necessary. Say for example ovulation occurs and sperm intercourse happens between male and female, and male gametes are inseminated into the vagina, and it will finally went to the what we call it as ovum. Finally, when ovum and sperm will fuse together, they have to lead to formation of zygote. So there should be in uterus, there should be that what we call it as that ambience, that environment in which a zygote can be fully developed. Okay, that's why the corpus luteum secretes so much progesterone in order to, you know in order to provide the zygote and ambience. Okay, I hope this concept is clear, right? And after 50 years, no menstruation occurs, so no female can conceive after that menopause. Okay, menarche means when menstruation occurs, when menstruation begins. That usually begins during puberty, and menopause simply means when it ceases, when menstruation ceases, and that is known as what we call it as menopause. Okay, I hope this concept is clear, right? Very nice. Okay, we are done with menstrual cycle. I hope you guys understand this very well. You should share this video with your relatives so that they will come to know what menstrual cycle basically is. Okay, you should share this with your friends, okay, your family, so on and so forth in your groups. Okay, why you should share this, I'll give an explanation in brief. Because there's so many myths that females are considered very, they are considered dirty during those days, but it's nothing like that. It's as natural as breathing, it's as natural as circulation, it's as natural as excretion, it's as natural as any other body process. So we shouldn't be ashamed of this menstrual cycle. So it's your responsibility to share this video. Only then awareness get awareness will be created in our society. Otherwise, we will be living in those myths that females are considered so dirty during these days. Okay, they aren't allowed to do anything. So please do share this video with your family, with your friends, so that they'll come to know about it, that it's nothing like that females should not be considered so dirty, untouchables on those days. It's absolutely wrong. Now it's your responsibility to share this video. I'll meet you in such any other interesting session. Till then, goodbye, take care, thank you so much.